But nonetheless, but what I'm here to talk about today is what I call your gift to the world. And if you have been working or had a business for, kind of 10, 20 years, and you've had success, however, but you're feeling unfulfilled. And there's nothing wrong with the success, by the way, and it works for some people, but for other people, it leaves them empty, with an empty feeling. And my opinion is that that's because you're feeling unfulfilled. There's a lack of happiness in your world. And happiness is a funny kind of a thing, really. And it can bring up all sorts of meanings and definitions. And I've heard, if you go online at the moment, on Facebook and things like that, you get the impression that if you're earning, kind of $50,000 a month, working 2 days a week and having clients on tap, then you'll be happy. I don't believe that's true. I believe you may be successful, and that would be a very good situation for you. And a lot of people are drawn to this type of marketing because they believe that this will actually solve their problem. Now, it probably will solve some problems. If cash flow and money is the issue, then it'll definitely potentially solve that. However, if happiness or fulfillment is the underlying issue, then I don't believe it's going to satisfy that. In fact, anything, it'll be just a cover-up, a band-aid. For some, it may work, for quite a long time. For others, that band-aid will come off and will pull the scab off with it and expose that sore, that wound that's been there for quite some time, wanting to be healed. And for some reason, this idea came into my head the other day where, they talk about the 7 degrees of separation. And I guess the image that came to my mind was more, well, no, it's 180 degrees of separation, because what we're doing is we're going out there I should point at the camera, we're going outward to try and find our happiness, or to find our fulfillment, or trying to find meaning. And so we're chasing something outside of ourselves. And so that $50,000 a month, working 2 days a week with loads of clients on tap, that's again is external. And we're chasing something, we're chasing a dream. And there's nothing wrong with chasing dreams. And we can talk about that too another time, and the importance of actually having a dream. However, it's, when I say 180-degree turn, which is turning back inward, it's the inward journey that matters the most. And if we're ignoring that, which many of us have, and at times, and there's a big price to pay for that. It's almost like we're going up the wrong ladder and then finding we're at a place towards the top, and it's like, oh, this isn't what I expected. And you're left with the question, is this all there is? You hear a lot of people, particularly men, talking about that topic. Is this all there is? And they don't necessarily say it out. They don't necessarily express it, but you can see it in their eyes when you talk to them. They're not there. There's nobody home. And it's because they have abandoned a part of themselves. They've gone for the glitz, but have been avoiding doing the inner work, the hard work. And it is hard. It's at the beginning, particularly, it's actually a bit of a struggle to do that inner work. And it's even messy. But once you get past the initial part of it and come to terms with the messiness, because life is messy. We want to control it and think life isn't messy, but it's far from it. Life is very messy. And when I say messy, it probably means that there's change happening all the time. And we don't like change. We're uncomfortable with change. For some reason, maybe it's an age thing, because certainly when you're younger, you want change, you want to do things differently, and you want to experiment and you want to go places. But maybe as you get older, maybe after having a number of knocks and life. See, if you haven't done the inner work, what actually happens is when the knocks come along, eventually they're actually quite impactful. Maybe that's just life's way of telling you, hey, wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to consider another point of view. You don't have to keep running. And so if you're not going to keep running, what do? Pull up the handbrake, do a U-turn, and do some inner work. And what I mean by inner work is looking at the story of you, the story you've created, the events in your past that have happened, and start to look into them and consider them. And there's so many people out there that spruik the idea, forget your past, move on. Your past is not who you are. And I get all of that. It makes sense if you're stuck in the past. However, if you've completely just dismissed it, not addressed it, you will be carrying a pain. You'll be carrying a deep pain from that time. And when you see people get quite emotional, when you upset them in some ways, it could be road rage, it could be in a discussion. You see them get heated. It could be over not getting their way, and they actually start acting like children. To me, that's they're getting triggered. The buttons are being pushed. But that's an unresolved issue. It's an unresolved part of their story. And the way to address this is to go into the story. It's almost like you want to bring it into your awareness. It's almost like, yes, bring it into your awareness. And then once you bring it into your awareness, it's okay. Is accepting it? Is accepting what's actually happened? And what I mean by accepting it is not denying it. And I'm not saying it makes it okay, but why do I say acceptance? Well, if something actually happened, it did happen. There's no point in saying it shouldn't have happened, and I guess we're thinking, oh, this shouldn't have happened, and by saying this shouldn't have happened, somehow the impact of it is negated, as opposed to, no, I actually need to feel the impact of that, or start to look at the impact of that on me. And as well as that, so there is a first point of it is bringing it into your awareness, bringing it into your consciousness. It's there. The second part is acceptance of what's happened. And then the third part is finding the gift in it. So the appreciation of what actually happened in some way. Now, that may seem like a very challenging thing to say to people. Well, why would I accept that? Why would I accept the abuse? I'm not asking you to accept the abuse. And there's been some horrific things happen to people. I'm not asking you to make it okay in any way, but you do need to accept it. And the reason I say you need to accept it, because it actually did happen. Now, the behavior of another person may be absolutely 1000% unacceptable. I get that. But it did actually happen. And that's why I'm saying accepting that's happened. And then out of that, looking at what's the gift in it. What have I learned from this? So you got acceptance, awareness, and appreciation. So the appreciation of what actually happened. What gift is in here? How has it changed my life? And yes, I can go, yes, it's changed my life for the worse because this happened, that happened, and the other thing happened. I get that. But it also taught you something else about life. Most people that have gone through pain have an empathy for other people. They're more sensitive to what's going on around them. They're more sensitive to what needs to change. And in there lies your gift. One question people could ask themselves is this: what is it I'd like to change in the world? What is the one thing? It may be a whole lot of things. You may have a list of 1,000 things. But if the question was put to you, you can only change one thing in the world, what would it be that has meaning to you and that's significant to you? So for example, for me, when I thought about that question, I thought, okay, what is the one thing? And the one thing I would like people to understand is that they are not damaged. I'm not damaged. You're not damaged. And to fully understand that and to stop living your life as if you're damaged. Stop viewing the world as if you're damaged goods, and stop trying to hide it, like trying to act like that didn't happen. I've covered up. I've come to terms with all of that. And so now you don't need to see that part of me. So we're living life like that, living life like you're damaged. And the second part of it is trying to cover it up. So in other words, if something happens, people that are covering up that they feel damaged in some way take everything personally, and it's not. There's very few things that actually happen are personal. Most people's reaction to you is about them. But what we do is we initially take it personally. So that triggers a belief in us, and then the belief actually triggers a feeling, and the feeling is one of, you're doing this to me in some way, I'm angry with you now. It might be a rage, it might be the belief is just set fire to your outrage, your hurt, your victim, your sadness. And that then influences your actions or your behavior. And then your behavior determines the outcome of all of this. So the results are the outcome. And so my wife says something to me, it triggers a belief in my head. I then have feelings about that. And the feelings are, oh, you shouldn't be saying that, like, and you have no right to speak to me like that. And then that belief then hooks up with an action. So I'm now going to tell you, get fucked. And then the result of that is not pretty. Because, yeah, can you relate to that? But we're doing this all the time, and we're doing it unconsciously. This all happens like in road rage. Somebody just cuts in you. There's no you're next thing in an argument in your head with that person. So belief, feeling, action, and then the result, which can be quite awful. So now I just want to bring it back to, what are we saying? We've got, first of all, we're going to bring it into our awareness. We've got acceptance, and then the appreciation. So we're now looking at going into what can I appreciate out of this event in my life? What is the gift in here? What have I learned? And that, quite often, not necessarily all the time, but it will certainly be, it will give you leverage into what really matters to you. It may be just a doorway. For some, it'll be, oh yeah, okay, actually, I felt a lot of shame. And so what actually matters to me is that people don't feel shame in their life. Or in the case of Andre Agassi, he felt he didn't have any choice in his life. He felt he had limited to very little choice, particularly around education. So when he connected with what gave him meaning, was he started building schools in America. Now he's built 96 schools, but it's completely changed his life. It completely changed the second half of his life. It completely changed his approach to tennis and who he was when he connected with, this is what really gives me meaning. I want children to have choice. Does that make sense? So from here, we asked that question. What is the one thing that I would like to change in the world? What is the one thing I would like to be part of that change? And start to write about it, start to investigate it. But it is in the story of you. Awareness, acceptance, appreciation, and getting that at your core level, not just here, but in your heart. And at a core level, in the cells, and ask the question, what is the one thing that I would like to change in the world or see changed in the world? And there is how we get access to the doorway to part of being fulfilled in life. There are a number of other things that tie in with that, and I call them the 4 anchors. And I'll just touch on them now, but for today, we won't go into it in much more depth. But the 4 anchors I see, and the order, I always start with the heart. It's connecting with your heart, your mind. Quite often people say there's their mind and your heart. And the reason I'm changing the wording around is because quite often people think, well, if I get my mind right, I'll then tell my heart what I want. Well, in fact, it's actually the other way around. Get your heart right and your mind will actually follow. So it's the heart, the mind, your soul, and your health. They're the 4 anchors. Some people call them pillars. And if we start to address them, the problem with people that went for success, they're probably just focused on one of these areas, but you need to have harmony in the 4 of these areas to get fulfillment. And basically success without fulfillment is an empty place for most people. Anyway, I'm going to finish there. And I hope this is helpful in some way. My name is Jared McCarthy from Brilliant You. But what we want to do is help you create a brilliant new you. That's it for now. Bye-bye.